Okay, so this is the first grungy garage day I've had in a while. The last one I had was back in February, which was unusual because it was so cold, but I was trying to diagnose Black Cherry's alternator issue. And this has been, this garage day has been a long time coming. I've been putting it off. And I probably have another one tomorrow too. We're gonna make as good a use of this long weekend as we can. So it is kind of hot outside. It's not hateful, but I do have on skimpage, so there's nip slips and everything else going on. So just deal with it. So I'm out here in the garage with Io. We've got some music playing, and got Sebastian back there, still not running, and I have Victoire here. So the first order of business was supposedly going to be something simple, but it turned into like a 2-hour project. Basically, the last few months that I've been driving the convertible, and I don't drive her often because I only drive her in absolutely perfect weather conditions, where the roads aren't wet, everything's perfectly dry, and the weather is relatively mild. So, and we haven't had mild weather, so I haven't driven her much. But the last several times that I have driven her, I've noticed a knock when I turn the wheel, like if I turn the wheel towards the left, like towards the driver's door. If I'm making a left, there is a knock when I turn the wheel too far. And I wasn't sure what it was. I was worried that there was actually something suspension-wise that was, busted or broken or, worn out. This car is now, 40 some years old. 40 years old. And I have every service record of this car from the day it was brand new, but I haven't actually gone through all the records to see what's been replaced over the years and what hasn't. That's another project. So anyway, so I thought that what I would do is I would quickly jack the car up. So right now she is pretty much off the ground. And I'm trying to pan the camera. The first thing I had to do was figure out how to jack this car up. The older Mercedes, they actually have down here, right here, they have these jack points, and Mercedes had special jacks for the cars, and this car still has all the original stuff. And the jack, there's a pin that sticks out like a finger, and that pin goes into that jack hole, and then you raise the car up. Well, I didn't want to raise the car up just from one side. I wanted to raise it up. I wanted to get both of the front tires off the ground. So I didn't want to screw anything up, so I had to run inside real quick and Google jack points to make sure I was getting it right. Got the right jack point, got the car off the ground, and I've fiddled with, I've been turning the wheel back and forth, and of course, I don't hear anything. I don't hear a knock like I would hear if I was driving. But what I was trying to do was to see if I could find a culprit. And I think what the problem is, and let me just pan this back. Let me see if I can do this. I can't. What seems to be the problem is simply worn out rubber parts. If you can see what you're looking at right here, this item right here that's kind of reddish, this is it's not the control arm, or I guess it's the lower control arm. And if you look here, you can see this piece of rubber. It looks like it's worn out. There's another piece of rubber up here that looks like it's kind of, flattened and worn out. So I think basically, I think what's going on is because these, and again, this happens with all cars. The rubber, these rubber pieces over time, they tend to wear out and deteriorate. And so if you've ever taken your car into the mechanic and they're like, oh, you need you need a new control arm or a tie rod or whatever for your suspension, chances are what they're meaning is the rubber piece on the end has worn out. The metal piece is fine, but the rubber piece on the end is worn out, and it's causing it's causing noise or whatever, and it needs to be replaced. I can't tell you how many times I have replaced a control arm or a tie rod on Cherry over the years. So she does have 319,000 miles on her. But it's just funny. It's like, I guess I'm just cursed with control arms and tie rods, because it seems like every time I would take a car in to be inspected, I'd hear the same thing. Oh, you need a control arm, you need a tie rod. And I'd be like, Jesus Christ, not again. One other interesting thing, while I have the car jacked up here, this is really, really cool, and I'm gonna try and show you this. So this is all the undercarriage under the wheel well, and you'll notice all of this kind of bumpiness, this grayish bumpiness. This is an anti-corrosion, an anti-corrosive that Mercedes would spray on all their cars. You can actually see a little bit of the original blue paint showing through it there. So they would spray coat the underside of all these cars. And as you can see, you know, again, for being 40 years old, this car has zero rust, and it's always been garage kept all its life. So it's an amazingly good condition, you know, all around. Just phenomenal condition for a car this age. Now, what I wanted to show you, this is really cool. If you can see this black thing that looks like an egg crate, I didn't actually know this was here myself until I jacked the car up a few minutes ago. But that is a reservoir for the vacuum, for air, for the vacuum system. So all of these Mercedes, these older Mercedes, a lot of the car runs on vacuum. And what happens is when the engine is running, it builds up vacuum, and that compressed air is stored in one of those little chambers. In this car, there's a chamber up under this fender, now that I know that, and I believe there's another one back in the back. And the vacuum controls all sorts of things. It controls, there's vacuum lines all through the engine compartment that controls the engine, different components of the engine and how it runs, including, you know, how it idles, which we'll get into in a minute. It also controls the climate control system. When you push a button, it's a vacuum system that's actually working behind those buttons, that's moving the vents and all of that. The other thing it controls are the door locks. And again, this isn't just a Mercedes thing. Older cars, if you've ever thought about when you were a kid and you saw the door locks go down on an old car when you turn the key, the locks, the knobs wouldn't all just snap down at the same time. They would kind of slowly go down, and they kind of went down at different intervals. You know, one would go down, another one would go down. That was vacuum working. And again, this was before cars were heavily, computerized with electronics. So the vacuum system controlled the door locking. And again, just one of many things. So I thought that was really interesting, seeing the little vacuum reservoir, the egg crate up under there. Sebastian also has a vacuum system, which I believe is part of the culprit for some of the issues with this car just in general. For instance, his door locks don't work at all. They haven't worked since I bought it. So there's a leak. You know, these vacuum lines, it's flexible plastic tubing, and again, over time, with age, these little thin vacuum lines, they'll get cracks in them, or they'll snap all together, and it'll cause a leak in the vacuum system. Now, Sebastian's vacuum, like I said, you know, the door locks don't work, but the climate control would work. If you would press a button for defrost, you could hear it. You could hear back inside of the dash, you could hear the vacuum kind of working. So some of his vacuum works, some of his vacuum does not. If I was to jack this car up, I would probably also see up under a fender an egg crate similar to the one under the convertible, because all these cars were designed, you know, very similarly. And I know Sebastian also has one back behind, like where the parcel shelf is, behind the back seat. So just a little interesting thing. So anyway, so back to Victoire. Bless her. There's absolutely nothing wrong with her. She's perfectly fine. I can't see anything. I don't see anything broken or anything that requires immediate attention. So I am going to drive her, you know, on occasion when weather is permitting. Not today. Today it's raining, and of course, I needed to pull one of the other cars into the garage and put her outside. I'm not going to do that until it stops raining. You know, once it stops raining, I'll push her out into the driveway and put her cover on her, and while I bring another car in. Or if it doesn't stop raining, I might just have to put all this off until tomorrow. But this was kind of like an exploratory surgery situation for the convertible. I was worried, you know, I was just worried that there was something majorly wrong. And I don't think there is. I just simply think, you know, she has older parts.